Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to show you how to really look at a chart and pull things out of it. What are the most important things? How do you read a chart? And I thought I might use a chart of somebody mega famous, such as Kim Kardashian. I thought that would be a chart that would really show the power of Vedic astrology, how to read a chart. So we're going to put her chart up here, but before we do, I want to remind everyone to go to my website, sign up for my free newsletter, galacticcenter.org. And while you're there, don't forget to check out my beautiful spiritual jewelry. I have prayer malas and earrings that all remind us of our spiritual journey while we're here on Earth. And don't forget, if you're interested in learning Vedic astrology, I have a stellar online university. Check it out, universityofvedicastrology.com. So with that, let's get to work and let's see what we can see in the chart of Kim Kardashian. So let's put her chart up here, and looking at her chart, she has a Scorpio ascendant. The ascendant is the sign that is rising at the time of birth. It's not the sun sign, it's not the moon sign, but this sign sets up all the houses, what planets are to fall in what houses. So it's huge. The ascendant is so important, and it is the individual. It's who they are. And so looking at her ascendant in Scorpio, what rules Scorpio? Now remember, we use the old rulerships, not Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto in the scheme of rulerships. I of course use them in a chart. But talking about, in this case, what rules Scorpio is Mars. So Mars is the chart ruler by the fact that it rules the ascendant. Remember, that's the first place you go. Look at the ascendant. What rules it? And where does that planet go? And in this case, Mars is in Scorpio in the first house. And what does that tell you about somebody? That's so focused into the first house, which is what? The individual. That's their physical constitution. That's who they are. And to have that kind of powerful energy in the first house, this woman knows who she is and what she wants out of life. And Mars is the planet of passion, of drive, of ambition. Is this an ambitious individual? You better believe it. Mars in Scorpio in the first house. So in other words, it's the ruler of the first in the first. So that makes somebody very self-contained. It's all about what? Them. Their life is about them. That's what the ruler of the first can mean in the first house. So what happens is, remember what I always say, wherever the chart ruler goes, it's going to be the focus of somebody throughout their life. And what is Kim all about? Kim, she wouldn't be as famous if it wasn't her prerogative to make herself successful, to get what she wants. It's all about Kim. And it's worked for her. So another thing is, looking in the first house, she also has Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of sudden abrupt change. And many times it can deal with sudden unexpected turnabouts. And I have to say, her chart has had these amazing unexpected turnabouts. And Mars being there with Uranus can make one very magnetic, especially in the sign of Scorpio. She's extremely magnetic. She's extremely passionate. And Scorpio has a certain charisma. Yes, and that's what she brings to her physical body. Everything about her is charismatic and extremely sensual and sexual, because what got her noticed was the whole sex tape thing. And this can actually be part of this Martian energy in the most sensual sexual sign Scorpio. So she's got that going on there. Now let's jump to the moon. The moon is such an important planet. And remember what I've taught everyone. When you have the moon on one side of the chart, away from all the other planets, it is what we call an isolated moon. And this means she's never really felt supported the way she wants to feel supported by others. It is a fact. That is what the moon will bring. And even though these individuals may be around a lot of people, they just never really feel that support, that understanding, that connection to other people. And probably didn't really feel like the mother was completely there for her either, because the moon is the mother. Even though her mother is a major part of her life, there's something about that not feeling supported all the time, that whether the mother was there all the time, it was very, very difficult. The moon is isolated away from all the other planets. But the moon sits in the 5th house, which is the house of creativity. Very, very creative, the moon being in the 5th, has great ideas, can think of things outside of the box. And the 5th house is the house that can deal with entrepreneurs. So she is got this entrepreneurial spirit in her heart. And this is another reason why she's so successful. So her moon sits also in the sign of Pisces. And Pisces is a very soft, beautiful sign, and this really is part of the reason that constitutes her natural beauty. And with Scorpio rising, there's this charisma that goes with natural beauty. When I think about a moon in Pisces, I think about a soft, beautiful, kind person. Someone that's very compassionate too. Pisces deals with compassion. But looking at the moon being in the 5th house, let's see what house the moon rules. And when we look to her chart, we're looking at the house of the 9th house, which is the house of spirituality, of truth, and the fact that the moon rules the 9th, but it goes to the 5th is very auspicious. And another thing is, because the 9th house is the father, her father was very wealthy. You know, her father was the trial lawyer for O.J. Simpson. So that's pretty intense. That's pretty powerful. He made a lot of money. And with the moon being ruler of the 9th, and it sits also in the nakshatra Uttara Bhadrapada. Now these nakshatras are certain ones that deal with inheritances. And let me just give it to you straight right now. There's 2 major nakshatras that deal with inheritances, and they are Uttara Bhadrapada, which means that great sums of money will come to you through other people later in life. Uttara means ladder. But the other one is Purva Falguni. And she happens to have her Venus in Purva Falguni. So that means that this woman will come into money from her family. And specifically, it originated from who? Well, the 9th house, the moon rules, which is the father. But it is the moon. The moon is the mother as well. So her parents. She comes into wealth and money. She wouldn't be where she is today if she didn't have the opportunities that her family afforded her to have in this lifetime. And that's what you can see by the moon, and especially it being in the 5th house, it gave her these gifts and gave her these talents. So jumping over to the next planet I want to assess, let's look at Venus, because Venus is this all-powerful planet. I mean, she's been known to be the most beautiful woman in the world at some points in her life. And Venus sits where? In the 10th house, which is your social standing, your work, your career, and it's your reputation. Venus is beauty. Venus is in Leo. Leo is the sign of attention getting. Leo is the sign that rules the sun. This is power. Venus is here. And generally, I find that even people that have planets, especially Venus and Leo, have beautiful hair. And she's got all of that going. Now, her Venus sits in the nakshatra Purva Falguni, as I mentioned before, which deals with inheritances. And it actually, Purva means former, so it comes earlier. Purva Falguni, but sometimes I've just seen, never mind if it's later or earlier, both these nakshatras deal with getting money through other people, inheritances. And Venus, though, being in this nakshatra, this is actually a nakshatra that deals many times with performers, actors, creative. They have the need to express themselves. That's what this nakshatra really has to do with. The sign Leo needs attention, and Venus sits in her 10th house, and she is going to be that person that seeks and gets the attention that she wants, especially with that powerful Mars in the 1st house. So that's pretty important. And let's go to where she's got her Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Virgo. And they sit in, well, that sits in the 11th house. The house of what? The 11th house is the house of great gains. And they say whenever you put Jupiter and Saturn together, that they are going to be pretty much manifestation of what you want. And it's in the 11th house of gains and groups and people. And actually, you know, she used to work for Paris Hilton. And that's how she broke into this whole situation that created her show and where she is today. So what is the 11th house? It actually deals with friends, groups, and people. And I believe that Jupiter-Saturn there represented that she knew some pretty important, influential people, and that manifested who and what she is. Now that Jupiter-Saturn casts their light by opposition to the moon. So the moon receives this energy of Jupiter and Saturn, point of manifestation, friends, groups, people that created what? Her career. So moving on, we can go to the Sun and Mercury. The Sun and Mercury sit in her 12th house, and her 12th house is the house of secrets, things behind the scenes, and hidden agendas. Another thing, though, the 12th house can deal with foreign countries, and with that energy there, it's very intense. Now, her Sun sits in Libra and her Mercury is in Libra. Now, remember, these two planets represent her foreign travels and interests that people really are interested about her all over the world. This is international. That's how I see that there. Now, one more thing, and then we're going to go into the rulership of houses. I've been basically just looking at special things such as, well, the special things are what houses the planets sit in and some of the characteristics of these planets. So going to where Rahu and Ketu are, these are always determinant of our future and our past and our destiny. So Rahu being here in Cancer, it sits there in the 9th house, and Ketu being there in the 3rd house sits there in Capricorn. Now, the 9th house deals with the father. The 3rd house deals with siblings. And boy, does she have an array of siblings. And wherever Ketu is, pretty much feels like there's something that's left undone. Something that wasn't ever completed in a past life. And her relationship with her siblings is part of that. That's what she's come here to heal. I see that by Ketu being there in the 3rd house. And Rahu being in the 9th house, she had a very influential father. Rahu can be influential people, and the 9th house is the father. But I think she really had a stressed, difficult relationship in some respect with her father, maybe just because he passed and died when she was so young. But that's that core essence of what she's come here to learn. And actually, if I could say this, the 9th and the 3rd house deal with learning, education, travel, and I just read that she is in law school and about to graduate and become a lawyer. What? That's this Rahu and Ketu in the 3rd and the 9th house, because the 9th house deals with law, deals with the legal profession. Her father was a lawyer with Rahu in her 9th house of law and father. And that's actually what the 9th house does rule. Your father and spirituality, truth, and the law. And many people with 9th house planets go into a legal profession. And that's what she's directing her energy into now. Amazing. And all the learning that she had to go through to get there, she did it. So that's a major accomplishment. Her learning higher education and schooling, that she has very little time, but she felt compelled to do it. I think that's because where Rahu and Ketu are our destiny. And it's something that she felt compelled, maybe left off in a past life. And that's maybe why she was born to a father that was a lawyer. So that's so interesting, that pull of Rahu and Ketu, what they direct us into. Now, going back to just looking at the planets in terms of house rulers, this is how you connect the houses and the planets and what they bring to it. Just like before, I was looking at the moon. The moon rules the 9th and it goes to the 5th. So the issues around father and education go to the 5th house. The 5th house is the house of intelligence. But the 5th house, I failed to mention, is also a house of children. And oh my goodness, she has had, I don't even know how many children she's had. I should have researched that, but I know she has at least about 2 or 3. Maybe she wants to, she has had a good experience with family and having children. So that's what, and she wanted children. Heaven knows her mother had what? I think I counted 6. So this is, she wants to have that family, that essence of security through children. And that's what she has done. So looking forward, and moon in the 5th house, usually it's somebody who wants children. And especially with Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of children. It's aspecting the moon in the 5th house. Of course this person will have children. So going forward to, let's go back to where Venus is. Venus sits in the 10th house. This is her work and her career. But Venus rules the 7th, and it rules the 12th. So interestingly enough, the 7th house deals with partnership. And this could be part of the reason how she became the career woman and the success she is, because the ruler of the 7th sits in the 10th house. And remember, the 7th house is the marriage partner, and the fact that it sits in the 10th house of reputation, career, it means you work with your partner, or either you've met your partner through your work. And I believe she has done some work with her husbands. And here's the other aspect of this. When the ruler of the 7th being in the 10th house is the public. And she's been married to some very, very famous individuals. Yes, and of course she would, because she's very famous, so she knows all of Hollywood. Now, let's go to where Jupiter and Saturn are. Now, Jupiter in this chart rules the 5th, and Jupiter also rules the 4th. I'm sorry, Jupiter also rules the 2nd and the 5th. So the fact that the 2nd house ruler, which deals with our money, goes to the 11th house of great gains. Remember, anytime a connection between 2 and 11 occur, it brings great wealth. So that is part of her success. Now, Saturn in this chart doesn't bring together as well the houses that Jupiter does, but Saturn brings together the 3rd house and the 4th house, and it sits in the 11th house of great gains. So Saturn brings together the 3rd, her siblings, to being famous as well, brought up with her, and the 4th house, which deals with family and the mother. And actually, you can consider her family, her mother are all public. 11th house can deal with major influential people being out there in great gains. So it's come through her family. Now going to where her Sun and Mercury are. Now the Sun in this chart, let's see, the Sun rules the 10th and it goes to the 12th, which is the house of hidden agendas, completely hidden behind the scenes and foreign places. So a lot of her career and her work have brought her to foreign places and lots of foreign travel. But at the same time, there's been a lot of hidden secrets. And I would imagine the 12th house deals with those hidden bedroom scenes that what? Made her famous. Ruler of the 10th, fame and career in the 12th house of secrets. Very interesting. Now her Mercury, which actually rules the 8th house, and Mercury also rules the 11th house, goes to the 12th house. And this would mean something to do with maybe the older sibling. And I believe her sister is older. And yes, and that means that there are some hidden secrets that they possess together, and probably there's some difficulty at times with them not being in competition, which I'm sure they are. And Mercury, ruler of the 8th, in the 12th, this would represent a lot of issues on hidden things that have come out and pretty much have caused her a lot of grief and pain and hardship, emotional hardship. So looking at this, her life is not a bed of roses. She's been through a lot, major ups and downs, but she is so determined. She is so powerful with that Mars being in Scorpio in the 1st house. She will persevere through it all, prove herself every time. And this is who she's all about, proving herself, being successful, as now she changes gears, going into a whole new career, and just thinking about where the transits are headed. Let's talk about that for a minute. Rahu and Ketu, where have they been? They've been going across the 1st and the 7th house. So the nodes of the moon causing the eclipses are happening in her 1st and 7th house. And I believe she's separated or divorced her last husband, Kanye West. So this is what these nodes create turbulence in relationships. And next, we're going to look at Jupiter. Jupiter's been in her 4th house in Aquarius. I guarantee you she's just had a major change in residence and home. Major changes have happened, but her career is ready to take off, especially in 2022, when we see Jupiter is going to be aspecting her natal Venus in the 10th house of her work and her career. She's going to get that recognition that she's been wanting in a whole different light. And Saturn being in the 3rd house. Well, Saturn being in the 3rd house for all the way into, for quite some time, almost a year, but definitely think Saturn will go back and forth between the 3rd and the 4th starting next April. But While it's in the third house, she's having her complications with her siblings. And don't forget, the third house deals with learning and education. I bet it's not easy for her to contend with all of her schooling, with becoming a lawyer, with her complicated, busy life and lifestyle. So she's got a lot going on, as most of us do with these transits going on right now. But that's how I would look at a chart. Now, the next thing that I would do, which we're not going to do in this lesson, is I would look at the entire chart, making the moon the ascendant. And that gives a whole different dimension to a person's life and what they're all about and how they deeply feel about things. So we call that Chandra Lagna. That is for another study that I will bring you through in the future. So with that, I'd like to close. If you would like more information on me, remember to go to my website, galacticcenter.org. And if you would like to study Vedic astrology with me, go to my university website, universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.